What's going on, everyone? I'm just a typical, average American here today to react and learn about 50 things that prove Canada is a unique country. So, to be honest, most of us Americans don't know what Canada is like. And that leads to many of us here assuming that it's basically the same as the United States. So today, I want to check out this video about all the things that make Canada and Canadian culture unique. So, let's take a look.
Canadians are famous for saying sorry all the time, even when the other person is clearly in the wrong. In fact, they apologize so much that an Apology Act was passed in 2009.
The most Canadian thing ever. I mean, this is maybe the biggest Canadian stereotype we have in America. One of the biggest is that you're very, very polite. And when you literally have an actual law that was passed by the government, actually, about the use of saying sorry. Wow.
It allows saying sorry in court without being afraid that it'll sound like admitting your guilt.
Because here in America, I'm pretty sure they would definitely try to use that against you in America. And I don't know exactly, but I think I'd be inclined to think it would work. In America, if you say sorry, that really means something. Americans do not like to say sorry. If you say the word sorry, that is a big admission of guilt and responsibility for something. Definitely.
Approximately 90% of Canada's land area is uninhabited. Even though it's bigger than the U.S., it has only 11% of America's population.
90% of Canada's land is uninhabited? Because I know that northern Canada doesn't have as many people by a lot. Most Canadians live south. And there's a huge, that northern part of Canada is freaking massive. But there are people who live there. So technically, what does uninhabited mean? Like, the actual physical land, the physical space that is not occupied by a human is 90% of Canada. Wow.
At 4,860 miles, the Trans-Canada Highway is almost the longest national highway in the world.
That is so cool. I know Canada built this a while ago, right? It was like a big mission or something. It actually goes on to does that get to Prince Edward Island or or Newfoundland and Labrador or anyway, all the way to Victoria, British Columbia? That's pretty incredible. This isn't the biggest highway in the world?
Beat only by Australia's Highway 1.
Oh, Australia has a highway it goes around the entire country. Oh my, how are you supposed to compete with that?
Also, when you travel along the Trans-Canada Highway and reach Quebec province, pay attention, and you may see the most cheerful town in the world, St. Louis du Ha-Ha.
Okay. Does that mean they're necessarily cheerful? I'd think after a while, if the name of your town is St. Louis du Ha-Ha, and everyone's just like, ha-ha, your name's ha-ha, eventually just be kind of over it.
Yep, just like that, with 2 ha's and 2 exclamation marks.
The exclamation marks are part of the name, actually? All right, well then, you're the most cheerful town. I don't care. You have no say in it. There's ha-ha with exclamations are in your name.
The town even has a Guinness World Record for most exclamation marks in a town name.
Okay.
It's illegal for polar bears in Canada to break into houses and steal food. So, if you see one rummaging around in your fridge, call the cops.
What are with some of these Canadian laws? The sorry law, I get it. I understand it. The polar bears, they're not human beings, you know? It's illegal for them to break into your refrigerator. Like, is this a joke or I don't know.
You can laugh all you want, but there's even a polar bear jail in Churchill, Manitoba.
It's like the video was talking to me. It knew I was laughing at this, criticizing this. I mean, yeah, poor bears. I mean, or poor us getting robbed by the bears. Throw them in jail.
Bear troublemakers stay there until they get relocated. Canada received its own flag in 1965, almost 100 years after it became a separate country in 1867.
Yeah, why? Why is that? Why did it take so long? I'm sure Canada had some kind of flag. I'm trying to remember if I know about this part of history. I'm sure Canada had some kind of symbol. Why did it take so long to get a national flag?
People in Nanaimo, British Columbia, are fans of a very exciting kind of sport. Since 1967, they've been organizing and participating in bathtub racing. These unusual competitions take place every year and involve bathtub boats and a lot of fun.
Huh? What is going on up in Canada? I don't know sometimes. I don't know. Bathtub boat racing. I mean, it's a silly concept, but it looks like they've built their bathtub boats so well. They might as well just be boats at this point. You should have to row around in a bathtub. Just plain and simple to call it a bathtub race.
Several of the most popular superheroes, such as Wolverine and Superman, were created by Canadians.
Superman was Canadian. I can't even process this. Superman was created by a Canadian? Who was Superman created by? I thought it was like Stan Lee or someone, you know, the comic book guy, the Marvel creator. Was he Canadian? Superman is such a symbol, an emblem of America. And American colors and America, Superman. This is kind of breaking my brain a little bit. He was created by a Canadian?
Thank you so much, guys. The most dramatic weather
Does it say created by?
by Canadians.
He was created by Canadians. Really?
Thank you so much, guys. The most dramatic weather change happened in Canada on January 10th, 1962.
Oh.
The temperature in Pincher Creek, one of the windiest places in the country, jumped from minus 2.2 degrees to 71.6 degrees Fahrenheit within a couple of hours.
Why? Was it hit by a meteor? What? That doesn't seem natural. How did it jumped 70 degrees Fahrenheit, or like 40, it jumped 40 degrees in Celsius in a couple hours? How does that happen naturally?
Canadians love hockey. As they say, these people breathe, eat, and live hockey.
Ah.
But despite their passion for the game, Canada's national sport is lacrosse.
Lacrosse. I've heard of this one. This one is shocking. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. This is the national sport? It's not. I thought maybe it was like the summer sport and hockey is the winter sport. Lacrosse is the sport of Canada? I mean, nothing against lacrosse players, but you might have to consider just giving up that title and letting hockey be the national sport of Canada. I think it deserves that. Does anyone argue against that?
One area in the Hudson Bay region has less gravity than any other region on the planet. So, if you want to jump higher and weigh less, that's the place to be.
What? What? What does that mean? What do you mean there's less gravity in some random part of Canada? Is there a black hole forming? How? What?
One crater on Mars was named Gander. after a town in the Newfoundland and Labrador province of Canada,
Ah, cool.
to honor its space research efforts.
Gander. That's where the whole 9/11, town of Gander story took place. Gander, Newfoundland. Yeah, I learned about how they helped all the people making emergency landings during 9/11, and it was this big, beautiful story. They also have a crater named after them. Nice.
How about this one? Santa Claus is Canadian. That's what Canada's immigration minister announced in 2012.
What? Are you allowed to do this? Santa is for the people. Santa is for the world. How can you just say he's Canadian? You can just do that?
So maybe that's why his famous outfit is made up of mostly two colors, red and white, which are the national colors of Canada.
Oh, man. I never thought about that. That's a good argument. It's also, Canada gets very cold in the winter. Like Santa would like it. It's a good argument, but I don't want to give up Santa.
Now, even though the Stanley Cup, which is the National Hockey League trophy, has its own bodyguard, hockey champions still manage to put all kinds of things in it. I mean, they drink chocolate milk from the poor thing.
What? 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 Is there a video of that? Is there a video of what they do with the Stanley Cup when a hockey team wins it? They want to drink out of it? Is that allowed? guess no one's gonna stop them.
In 1930, Canada's hockey team did so well that they were put straight through to the final game. They didn't even have to take part in knockout rounds.
What?
And in the end, they won the gold.
Cause you had to win one match? Canada, were you okay with this? Probably, but don't you want to earn it the long way, or was it just that sure of a thing? It's like, okay, Canada is participating. Put them in the final. that actually that's insane. I mean, Canada must have been just clearly leagues ahead of everyone else, if this is a true story.
Canada's territory occupies a whopping 3,855 million square miles, which makes it the second largest country in the world after Russia.
Okay. Yep.
For comparison, Canada is bigger than the whole European Union and 15 times larger than France.
It's bigger than Europe? Or most the European Union. All those countries put together could fit inside Canada. I know the United States is very, very big, but somehow Canada is even bigger.
Biggest European country. Ottawa, the capital of Canada, isn't the largest city in the country. With a population of about 1 million people, it comes second to Toronto.
I knew Toronto was massive. It's the Canadian city that we always, if we hear about a Canadian city, we hear about Toronto. Ottawa, even though it's the capital, that doesn't mean it has to be the biggest, like how Washington, D.C. is not our biggest city or anything.
Capital of the Ontario province. Almost 3 million people live in that city.
Wow.
Canada is officially the most educated country in the world, with 56% of its population having some kind of post-high school education degree.
I've heard this one before, quite a few times, actually, really rubbing it in our faces. Canada is very, 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 very highly educated. That's awesome, and it's obviously resulted in the success that Canada has had. That's an amazing thing, having a very, very educated population. But I keep hearing about this nonstop. I feel if there's a video with Canadian facts in it, it's always like, Canada is the most brilliant. It's like, okay, you're smarter than us. Fine.
In St. Paul, Alberta, they built the first landing pad for UFOs. Well, I guess you can never be too prepared.
I like that, actually.
The platform weighs more than 130 tons and contains a time capsule which has to be opened in 2067.
I like that.
In a 2018 happiness report, Canada was ranked number 7.
Oh.
I mean, even despite all that cold?
Wow, really? Because I know the Scandinavian countries, Finland, Norway, Denmark, they're always scoring so highly on these happiness studies. Canada is number 7 in happiness. That says a lot. There's a lot of ways to measure the success of your country. The happiness of the people, I think that's underrated. Like, I don't know how you measure that exactly, but that's a very, very, very good thing.
The number of Canadian lakes is mind-blowing. The country has more than 3 million lakes, which is more than the rest of the world combined.
How?
Besides, all these lakes contain 20% of all the fresh water on Earth. Okanagan
God.
Lake is supposedly the home of Ogopogo, a mythical creature.
Ogopogo? Is this like the Loch Ness Monster? Nessie? This is the Canada version? Ogopogo? I've never heard of him. Okay.
Similar to the one that's said to dwell in Loch Ness, Scotland.
Yeah, there we go. It's like their cousin or something.
Forests cover more than 40% of Canada's land territory. But
Really?
New Brunswick province is especially foresty.
Really?
Trees cover 85% of its territory.
I feel like I never hear about New Brunswick, so I'm glad there's a little New Brunswick fact here.
Walking in the forest without a compass doesn't sound like fun anymore.
Canada is a very unique country. That's the name of the video, but also because I'm thinking geographically, most of the northern part of Canada is uninhabited. Then a bunch of other parts have these 3 million lakes. And then other parts have 40% is trees. There's not Canada, and yet Canada is the second biggest country in the world. There's not a lot of room for humans in Canada, funny enough, even though how huge it is. It's kind of funny how that works.
Canada has the world's longest coastline.
That makes sense.
If you decided to walk along the Canadian coast without stops,
That makes sense. When you look at it like this, of course, okay, of course it has the most coast. Like when you count all the different little islands or what have you.
it would take you more than 4.5 years.
I'm surprised you could even do it that quickly, walk around all these.
No wonder, since you'll have to cover about 151,000 miles.
Oh my god. Okay, I think we are halfway done. Whew! 50 things that prove Canada is a unique country. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I think more Americans should check out this kind of video because Canada is very, very different from the United States. This is proving it. I'm really enjoying this, but I think I'm going to stop here for now and continue the rest of this in part 2. So if you've enjoyed this, feel free to give this video a like or leave a comment. If you're Canadian, give your thoughts on these amazing, unique things about Canada. That'd be fun to hear about. And if you're interested in part 2 or just more videos like this, me reacting to Canada and learning about Canadian culture, feel free to subscribe for more. And until then, thanks for watching and see you next time.